Okay, let's have a look at solving some questions around monohybrid crosses. Question 1 says, in humans, brown eye colour, capital B, is dominant over blue eye colour, lowercase b. List all the possible genotypes and phenotypes that can exist. Alright, so this question is asking us to list all the possible genotypes and all the possible phenotypes. So what's a genotype? Well, a genotype is the genetic makeup of the organism or the offspring. And the genotypes are going to be different combinations of the uppercase B and the lowercase b. And phenotypes are the features that result from the expression of this genetic information. And the question states that there are two possible phenotypes, brown eye colour and blue eye colour. And brown eye colour is dominant over blue eyed colour. So it's worth noting that if the brown eye is dominant over blue eyes, we will call the blue eyed colour recessive. That's not in the question. So what are the three possible genotypes that can result? So genotype 1 is going to be 2 capital B's. Genotype 2 will be capital B, lowercase b. And genotype 3 will be 2 lowercase b's. So what's the difference between all these things? Well, here, if an offspring had 2 uppercase b's, that means they've inherited the 2 alleles for brown eye colour. If they've got 1 uppercase b and 1 lowercase b, they've inherited 1 of each. And if they've got 2 lowercase b's, it means they've inherited both the alleles for blue-eyed colour. So let's think about now what are going to be the phenotypes then. If you've got 2 capital B's, that means you have 2 alleles for the brown-eyed colour. So this offspring would have brown eyes. And when we have 2 uppercase B's, there's a very fancy word that we can use to describe that. It's called homozygous dominant. And so why is it called homozygous? Well, homo means 1, so there's 1 type of allele present here, they're both capital B's, and dominant means that they're both the dominant alleles, so they're both going to be capital B's. Let's have a look at our second genotype option. It's capital B and a lowercase b. Now in this example, this offspring has inherited 1 allele for brown eyes and 1 allele for blue eyes. So what is going to be expressed? What's going to be the phenotype of this offspring? And the answer lies here, where they've listed or they've mentioned that brown eyes is dominant over blue eyes. So this person is going to have, oops, wrong pen color there. This offspring will have brown eyes. And although they have brown eyes, it's because they have brown eyes because this allele is dominant over the lowercase allele, but it also still means that they carry the genetic information for blue eyes, and that might be passed down in the next generation if this person produces offspring. And we call that, in genetics, heterozygous. And hetero means 2, so there's 2 different alleles present. In the third and final option, 2 lowercase b's. So the 2 lowercase b's, both alleles are for blue eyes, and so therefore this person will have blue eyes. And we're going to call this one, in genetics, homozygous recessive. So why is it homozygous? Well, it's homo because there's 1 type of allele, and it's recessive because they're both lowercase. So we've listed our genotypes here. These are our genotypes, the 3 possible options, and here are my phenotypes. There's 2 possible options for phenotypes. Let's go on to question 2. Question 2 says, in humans, free earlobes, capital F, is dominant over attached earlobes, lowercase f. If one parent is homozygous dominant for free earlobes, while the other has attached earlobes, can they produce any children with attached earlobes? So this question, I can already tell, is going to require us to do a Punnett square, because we need to determine what will the children of these parents have, what will their traits be, what will their genotypes and phenotypes be. So let's draw up our Punnett square. And our cross will be between one parent, which is homozygous dominant for free earlobes. So free earlobes is capital F. Homozygous dominant tells me that they're going to have both the same allele, and because it's dominant, it's going to be the free earlobe allele, or there's going to be 2 capital F's. While the other has attached earlobes. Okay, so the allele for attached earlobes is lowercase f. the only possible combination of alleles that a person can have to express attached earlobes will be 2 lowercase f's. Alright, so the other possible genotype, which was heterozygous, so uppercase F and 1 lowercase f, won't produce attached earlobes. The only possible combination of genes, of alleles for attached earlobes is lowercase f and a second lowercase f. So now let's cross these guys together and see what are going to be the offspring. What are the chances of the offspring having attached earlobes or detached earlobes? So in this first box, I combine this allele here with this allele here. That's one possible combination. And by convention, I put the capital F first. In this box over here, it's going to be exactly the same situation. This allele combined with this allele. And in this box down here, it's going to be this allele and this allele together. And in the fourth box, it's going to be this allele and then this allele together. And there we have the chances for the genotypes for all the offspring. So there's 4 possible options. There's a 25% chance of being this one, a 25% chance of being this one, 25% chance of this being this one, 25% chance of being this one. And so they're all exactly the same. So we would say that there's a 100% chance of being this genotype. And what is this genotype? It's heterozygous, and heterozygous will end up giving us free earlobes. The phenotype would be free earlobes. Why free earlobes? Because you've got the dominant allele present and the recessive allele present, and this dominant allele obviously be dominant over the recessive allele, and the dominant allele is for free earlobes, as it says in the question. So there'll be a 100% chance of all the offspring having free earlobes. There is a 0% chance of any offspring having attached earlobes. So we haven't technically, even though we've done everything that we need to do, we haven't technically answered the question. It says, can they produce any children with attached earlobes? So I'm probably going to write a little sentence down the bottom. So therefore, there is 0% chance of producing any children with attached earlobes. And you're right in saying that 100% of the offspring are heterozygous, and that attached earlobe allele is still present, and that might be passed down in the next generation if there's another cross perhaps somewhere else. Let's move on to another question, question 3. So it says, in humans, widow's peak R, capital R, is dominant over straight hairline, lowercase r. A heterozygous man for this trait marries a woman who is also heterozygous. List possible genotypes of their offspring, and then list the phenotypic ratio for their children. So over here I've got a picture of a gentleman that has a widow's peak, and you can see the shape of the hairline is, I guess, a V shape, and that's what we're talking about when we're referring to a widow's peak. So in humans, widow's peak is dominant over a straight hairline. So a straight hairline would just be simply a hairline that, I guess, doesn't have that V shape, more of a straight line. So list all possible genotypes of the offspring. So let's do that. In order to list all the possible genotypes, we have to cross a heterozygous man with a heterozygous woman. Let's start off by drawing up our Punnett square. And the cross will be between a heterozygous man and a heterozygous woman. So hetero meaning they have 2 different alleles present. Let's cross these together. So in this first box, I'll cross this allele with this allele. It'll end with 2 capital R's. In this box, I'll have 1 capital R and 1 lowercase r. In this box down here, I'll have a capital R and a lowercase r. In this box over here, I'll have 2 lowercase r's. So we got a little bit different offspring genotypes, I guess, from the second question. And let's go through and work out, hey, what are we going to actually get in terms of genotypes? So I can see here each box is 25%. So I've got a 25% chance of it being R, capital R, this box. I've got a 50% chance of being heterozygous. So there's 25% here, and here's the second 25%. So 25 plus 25 is 50. And we've also got a 25% chance of it being this genotype. And so we note that this one over here is our homozygous dominant. This one right here is heterozygous. And this one here is homozygous recessive. And so they're the possible genotypes for their offspring. And now it says here, list the phenotypic ratio for their children. So what this is asking us to do is say, first of all, work out what are going to be the possible phenotypes for these children. So there's going to be a 25% chance. Oops, there's a little mistake there. That's not correct at all. So we're going to have 25% chance of being homozygous dominant. That will produce a widow's peak. We've got a 50% chance of being heterozygous. That'll also produce a widow's peak. So if we add those two things together, that's going to be a 75% chance of producing a widow's peak. And this one down here, 25% chance of being homozygous recessive, that will produce a straight hairline. So there's a 25% chance of producing a straight hairline. And now the question says, list the phenotypic ratio. So if you look at how I've presented this here, probably what we're used to, this is actually percentage, and that's not what the question's asking us to do at all. So it's asking for a ratio. So we can either go back to our Punnett square and have a look at the ratio of widow's peaks to straight hairlines, or we could think about our percentages as a ratio. And I like to look at the Punnett square to do this. There's 4 possible boxes. 3 of them are going to produce a widow's peak, and 1 will produce a straight hairline. So the phenotypic ratio will be 3 widow's peaks to every 1 straight hairline. So it's a 3-to-1 ratio of widow's peaks to straight hairlines. So there's our answer.